Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Just doing a quick check to make sure that we are live over on Facebook and YouTube. All right, I'm seeing us over on social media. So, hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. It is so great to be back live streaming with our RSDSA community. I know it's been a while, but we are back and we are better than ever. My name is Alexis Johnson, and I'm the social media manager here at RSDSA. I'm joined by today's first guest of 2025, Dr. Lisa Van Allen.
Hi
Lisa
there.
is hi, yes. Lisa is the chair of RSDSA's Advocacy Committee. She lives with CRPS, a disease that has taken her shoes, her mobility, her career, and many activities that once brought her joy. Undeterred, Lisa is a pain warrior advocating for people affected by chronic pain, particularly CRPS. She is an author, an artist, and lives with her husband Duke and her dogs Daisy and Daphne. Lisa brings complementary experience and perspective that is key to our advocacy committee success. Now, as always, remember here is helpful. Please consult your physician for personalized medical advice. Now, before I turn it over to Lisa, I have a few announcements as usual. I did want to ensure that everyone is aware of our upcoming Young Adult Weekend Retreat that's taking place in Nashville, Tennessee from June 27th to June 30th. Young adults with CRPS between the ages of 18 to 32 will spend the weekend with fellow warriors who fully understand what they are going through. You can find details in the event section of our Facebook page and on our website, rsds.org. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll also drop a link in the chat, and I'll drop a link in the chat on Facebook as well. And finally, we are still on the hunt for a social media intern to assist with our many platforms. One of my biggest goals for this year was for us to create a larger community on every channel, especially TikTok. I'm not sure about TikTok right now because it sounds like we might be losing TikTok in the next 3 days or so. So we will see. But either way, we're still looking for a social media intern for all of our platforms. So take a moment to learn more about what we're looking for via the news section of our website at rsds.org. And once again, I'll post a link in both chats. So enough announcements. I'm done with those. Lisa, let's get started. I know you have a lot to talk about when it comes to advocacy, CRPS, and RSDSA. So where would you like to begin?
There's just a number of things, almost announcements that I wanted to share with the community. And I'm new to the advocacy group and somewhat new. I've kind of been lurking with the RSDSA for a long, long time, but not actively involved. So I'm not sure what everybody's aware of. But there's a few organizations and activities and events that I've become aware of that I wanted to share with everybody because I think it gives us some real opportunities to get word out about CRPS to the general population and to legislators. So I'm just going to jump right in if you don't mind. We've got Rare Disease Week coming up. And I'm really excited about this. I'm going for the first time. The dates are February 24 to 28, and it's free to register. And you go to everylifefoundation.org to register. It's put on by the Every Life Foundation. Every Life Foundation is a group of folk that have gathered a number of rare disease groups to collaborate on things like legislation, getting the word out, things like rare artist events, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But Rare Disease Week gives us an opportunity to all go to the Capitol, Washington, D.C., and get a little bit of training on how to approach legislators and talk about our causes. We also get a chance to just mingle and get to know one another. There's an evening where they're doing a cocktail party for the rare disease artists who have won this year. So there's a number of really interesting, good events. I don't know how active the RSDSA has been involved with Rare Disease Week in the past. I know Jim Dolgaris, my predecessor with advocacy, has gone and has been involved. So I really encourage you, if you're going to go, shoot me an email, drlisavanallen@gmail.com, because I would love to meet up. with as many people with CRPS as I can. I live in a small community and I don't run into a whole lot of people with CRPS very often. And I think it'd be great if we could have coffee or dinner or whatever. So a meetup in the Capitol would be fabulous.
That
But
would be great. I know
yeah,
Kelly, who's on our board, Kelly Considine, who's on our board. I know she's gone to Rare Disease Week in years past. I'll have to check in and see if she's going this year. But I'm also going to put Lisa's email address in the chat if you're able to go, especially if you're, well, I don't want to say especially if you're on the East Coast, because I always think when you're on the East Coast, you can just drive to DC, which is, I know it's not easy for everyone, but hopefully we do have a good number of CRPS warriors join us in DC in February.
that would be fabulous. It's a multi-day event, like I said, the 24th to the 28th. You don't have to attend the whole thing. So if you don't want to sit through the training on advocacy, or if you don't necessarily want to meet with your legislators, but I would encourage you, when you sign up, there's a place where you can check off if you want to actually meet with your legislators, and they will organize that for you. I've also reached out to my local Congress people and asked them to meet with me that while I'm in town. Do that. You want to sit down with your legislators and talk to them about CRPS and some of the legislation that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. Gives us a real opportunity to get the word out about what we're living with and what kinds of changes that we're hoping to have happen. The Every Life Foundation also does something that I think is really wonderful, and that is honoring rare artists, people who live with rare diseases, who use art as an opportunity to, I know I use it to distract from my pain. Some people just use it to express themselves and to share those emotions that come welling up when you're living with the frustration of a rare disease. The Rare Artist Program has been around since 2010, but it's grown and it's gotten huge. And there's a number of artists this year that they're honoring. They've already had the competition for 2024. And at Rare Disease Week, they're going to be giving cash prizes. I think it's $500 each person that wins in different categories. And then they're having this cocktail party where you can look at the exhibits. I've already seen the winners online, pictures of them, and I can't wait to go see the gallery because I think it's going to be really moving to see what some of these folks, even children, have submitted. If you are an artist, I really encourage you to spend this year thinking about what would you like to enter. It isn't just visual artists, it's also people who write poetry. And consider entering because, again, nobody with CRPS entered last year. And there's not a whole lot of us, we're a rare disease. So I think if we could possibly get just a number of us submitting our work and go online, if you can't go to the exhibit, look at it online because it isn't really fancy, super polished work that has been submitted. Some people are just sharing the expression of their soul. And like I said, even kids are getting involved. You don't have to have perfection to submit, but sharing your work with people and showing them what you're living with through your art would be a wonderful way for us, again, to get the word out about CRPS.
We
One
do
of the
have a
things
quick
that
question.
yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead.
we do have a quick question in the chat. Someone is asking, and I'm putting a link so that someone can, they can take a look and also enter. If someone is a musician, does that count as part of the rare artist? Okay,
I
awesome.
wish that they haven't
Oh,
done that yet.
okay.
It's visual art, so that would be like drawing, painting, sculpture, that kind of thing. And poetry right now is what they're focusing on. Now, that's what they did last year. They haven't announced the categories for this year, but I look and it's been pretty consistent the last few years of those two areas. So I think we could definitely appeal to Every
Yeah.
Life and see if some of our musicians would be able to submit. I think it would be fabulous.
Hopefully they're
The
watching and
judges,
listening.
what's that?
Hopefully they're watching and listening to this
That
live
would be
stream so they
great.
can see that people want to submit music.
Yeah. The judges, I think this is fabulous. Most of them have rare diseases themselves. All of them but one are artists, and the one that's not is a doctor who works with rare diseases and also works with what we call personal narrative. And so the judges are really good and really, I think, particularly equipped to look at what we're doing and submitting. And so don't worry about, again, your work being judged harshly and not people understanding what you're trying to get through. I think it's a really wonderful competition. And then the other thing that they do is they take the winners of the Rare Artist Week and train them to become advocates. And that way they can speak during Rare Disease Week at the Capitol. You don't have to, you're not forced to, but I think, again, wonderful opportunity for us. If one of you out there submit and wins, you could actually represent us at the Capitol, and that would be amazing.
Right. I saw someone in the chat said that they did enter a piece and unfortunately it didn't make it and they're going to try again. And yes, just keep trying.
Keep doing it. Keep
Yeah.
submitting. That's fabulous. I'm glad to hear that we've got people doing it.
Yeah.
I plan to submit this year.
Awesome.
Okay, jumping into actual advocacy or what I call legislative acts, advocacy. I'm pretty sure you're aware of the Protect Rare Act. I know Jim Dolgaris talked about it quite a bit last year, and it's still something that we want to focus on. We want to get letters out there, phone calls. For those of you who don't know, let me give you a little background. It's House Bill 6094, and you might want to write that down because when you talk to your legislators, you want to give that number to them. The Protect Rare Act was written and actually partly was sponsored by a coalition of rare disease groups who approached their legislators. And I think that's fabulous. And the whole purpose of this was to get medications that work for, say, chronic intractable pain, but they're not, the medication was not designed for that purpose. One example, I manage my pain with ketamine. Ketamine was designed as an anesthetic for surgery during the Vietnam War. It wasn't intended to be used for pain originally. We are now using ketamine off book, is what they call it. Now, there are a number of doctors out there that are uncomfortable with writing prescriptions for off book medications. We also have a problem where Medicare and Medicaid will not pay for off book medications because there's no FDA approval for that particular use. It doesn't mean that the drug doesn't work. It doesn't mean that it's bad for you. What it means is just it hasn't been tested for that particular disease. But we have lots of research for these drugs that prove that it works. And the reason that they were able to push this bill to the point where it has is back in the 70s, they used off-book medications to treat cancer, and it worked. And so they've been using off-book medications for decades. Another example of off-book medications, a lot of you out there take antidepressants to manage your pain. Same area of the brain. Now I'm getting into my background as a psychologist. Same area of the brain that monitors and controls our emotions is where our pain receptors, most of them are in our brain. And so it makes sense that the depression medications also often will help reduce pain. I was on Cymbalta for a while, or duloxetine as a generic name. It wasn't designed for pain. It was designed for depression. I didn't have depression. But now in my chart, it looks like I was depressed for about 3 years because that's how long I took Cymbalta. If you're taking an off-book medication, don't worry about it. Protect Rare will not change the status of what you have and what you've been using, but it'll make these drugs more available to people. And the other thing that we're really hoping is Medicare and Medicaid might start paying for them. Ketamine is incredibly expensive, and I've been paying out of pocket for it for 7 years now. And a lot of people can't afford to do that kind of thing and can't pay out of pocket. So they're going unserved and don't have anything to treat their pain. So please get in touch with your legislator and ask them to support the Protect Rare Act, that is House Bill 6094. Let them know. When you talk to a legislator, I have like 3 tips. And that is, first of all, be brief. These folks are incredibly busy. And you might not even get to talk to your legislator. You probably will end up talking to a staffer. Don't be offended by that. They have people on their team that they've designated for certain issues. And these staffers might even be more aware of what's going on than the actual legislator at that point in time. So talk to the staffer, or if you can, talk to your legislator, but be brief. Plan in your head or even write down bullet points of what it is that you're going to share. Share the number. Again, House Bill 6094 for the Protect Rare Act. And then after your brief, be specific. Tell them about the Protect Rare Act and what it is and what it's designed for. And then the most important part is be personal. Tell them a piece of your story. I recently talked to one of our local legislators, and I shared with her the fact that I've been barefoot for 10 years. Now, I live in north central Iowa. It's Arctic here in the wintertime, sub-zero temperatures. And then in the summertime, it's just blistering hot. And the sidewalks and the streets are just literally blistering. And so it's really hard for me to get out and around when I'm barefoot. And now it's both feet. It's not just the one foot that it started with.
Right.
I shared with Ashley Hinson the fact that I've been barefoot for 10 years, and she went, "Oh, she knew me before CRPS, and
Mhm.
she knew I loved my high heels." So for me to give up my shoes was just
Right.
like hard, and that touched her heart. You
Mhm.
never know what's going to trigger that personal response with your legislator. When I talk with Charles Grassley, I usually talk about breast cancer because his wife passed from breast cancer. I know that is an issue for him that touches his heart, and I can talk about the pain she lived with, and it's not dissimilar to the kind of intractable pain that we live with when we have CRPS. Those are the kinds of analogies and comparisons and things that you can share with people when you know your legislators or just know your own story and can share it. So think about things that will touch people's hearts, that will help them understand your situation. Don't be angry. Don't
Mhm.
blame people. Be careful, but be sure that you're succinct and really specific about why you want them to pass this bill and get involved in supporting that legislation.
Great
Did I
tips. And
cover
I
all
hope
the
you put
bases,
all
Ashley? Or
No,
Alexis?
I put all of that in the chat. Tips to reaching out to your rep: be brief, reference the bill number, which I also put in the chat. Protect Rare Act, House Bill 6094, and also make sure that you are personal when you're telling your story. And I also put a
Fabulous.
link so that people can learn more about what the actual bill is. I put that in here, linking from congress.gov. So all great, great tips.
That's super.
Yeah.
I had one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the Advocacy Committee. We're a small group. I think that they've been doing a great job. I've only been to a couple of meetings, and Jim Dolgaris did a fabulous job last year. His health has caused him to step back a little bit, and so they asked me to step up, and I'm happy to do it. I love advocacy. I've been involved in advocacy since I was a teenager, and so I love the political process. And I would love to see our group to grow, to get more people involved. I'd love to see a diversity of age groups.
Mhm.
CRPS touches all kinds of people, teenagers and even younger kids and college students. And it would be really great if we had representatives from each of those age groups in our group. It's great to have retirees like me on the group because we have time, but we would make time and make it work for people who have jobs, who have school responsibilities, that kind of thing. We don't want to burden anybody with a lot, but when there's more of us on the team, there's less for each one of us to do. We will offer training on how to talk to legislators, how to make those phone calls. We will use your skills and whatever you're willing to contribute. But please consider joining our group. It's a good group. I know there's a couple people that are thinking about stepping back, but we really need to grow the group and get a little more involved. We're not just going to be focusing on political advocacy, but we also want to really push the agenda on self-advocacy. When I go online, I'm involved in a number of Facebook groups just because that was where I found community for CRPS when I first got sick. Um, every day, my heart is touched when people talk about how their families or their doctors or other medical providers don't understand their situation, that they don't have anyone to talk to, that they're getting mistreated, that they aren't able to communicate what their needs are in a way that's getting a response and that they're not getting the help they need. And so I want to make sure that every one of you knows how to stand up for yourself, knows how to communicate what your needs are, that you know how to work with the insurance companies. By the way, I used to work for United Behavioral Health. I apologize. But so I know the ins and outs of managed care. So I can work with you and help you understand how to push your agenda and get the help you need and get insurance coverage for things that you should be getting insurance coverage for. I can help you work with doctors. Being a clinical psychologist, I know a little bit about how that brain works and how to communicate with doctors. They have so little time. Do you know the average medical visit is booked now and expected to be 6 minutes of FaceTime with your provider? Now,
Wow.
I think that's corrupt. I think that's
Yeah.
just absolutely evil. But that's the reality that we live with in the US healthcare system. And so, if that's all the time you get with your doctor, you've got to be prepared. You've got to know how to communicate what your needs are and how to make make it really clear so the provider can respond. If you go in and he says on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me where your pain is, and you say it's an 18, there's no such thing on a scale of 1 to 10 of an 18. And so that doesn't mean anything to that doctor. So, how do we communicate the urgency of our needs and how much pain we're living with and how they can help us in a way that they can respond? So,
Yeah.
we're going to be writing blog posts. We're going to be doing things like Facebook Lives and chats, trainings. I've been talking with Sharon, our executive director, about things that we can do to get people engaged and to get people the help they need. There's another category of folk that I'm really interested in getting help, and that's veterans.
Yes.
I don't know how many it's come through. Jerry Krasner from the home office sends them to me regularly. Oh, if I've got another email from another vet who needs to get access to care. If you or someone you know is a veteran living with CRPS who isn't getting the services they need, particularly if they're interested in getting ketamine, because the VA has said they will cover ketamine. And so there's a number of things that we can do to help them know how to access care and how to get things covered, and where to go, and yeah, all of those things. So please send them our way. Again, give them my email address. I'm happy to interact with them and give them the help that I can.
Definitely. I'm putting your email address again in the chat. I did put it in the chat earlier, but everyone is chatting, and I'm loving seeing some familiar names and names that we haven't seen in a while, as well as some new names. So let me go ahead and put Lisa's email address in the chat again. It's drlisavanallen@gmail.com. I'm so happy that you mentioned veterans because I feel like there's so many veterans who need help and they try to go to the VA, or even if they can't get into the VA, they just
Right.
don't know what to do. So, of course, we're trying to help everyone, but then, of course, we also want to make sure that our veterans who have already sacrificed so much that they get the help that they need as well.
Something
And I'm
I've
also,
learned, or something that finally dawned on me, is it's a shame, but the truth is, because our condition is rare, it is our job to help people understand what it is that we're living with and what we need. We think that doctors have the training and have the knowledge and that they should get it, or that the insurance provider, it's their job to know what they're supposed to pay for. But the truth is, they can't know it all. There's just too much out there for them to know. And so it's really on us if we want to get help to help them help us.
yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm doing with veterans is helping them train the people that have
Mhm.
been denying their care. Because what I'm finding out is that these people who are saying, no, 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 you can't do that, they just don't know what the opportunities are and what the resources are. Veterans are allowed to access ketamine clinics. It doesn't have to be, quote, in network. you know, there's just a number of things. They can even get their transportation paid for. If they have to go out of town. So there's a lot of resources there at the VA that I'm really encouraging veterans to go for, because the VA is kind of a test case for the use of ketamine with CRPS. We really would love to see to get that approved and covered by Medicare and Medicaid for everybody. And right now, since the VA is so interested in using ketamine for veterans, it is a wonderful place for us to show it works. So, yeah, let's get veterans and get them the help they need and help ourselves at the same time.
100%. We did just have a question someone asked, and I'm going to respond in the chat, but we always get emails from people who are international CRPS warriors who are not in the United States who are looking for assistance. So I'm always sure to point them to the International Research Consortium for CRPS. I'm putting
Good.
their email address in the chat, organization that we are affiliated with, but we're trying to make sure that people across the globe are aware of CRPS as well. And then we also, if you go to our support group page for anyone who's listening, we do have some contacts for CRPS organizations in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Korea, and the UK. So we're doing the best that we can here in the States, but we do have friends across the globe who are also working for CRPS Warriors. So I did just want to mention that as well. I know we got a few questions that came through via email that I wanted to touch on. And then if anyone else has any questions for Lisa, definitely put them in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as we're speaking. So this one person, I know who asked this question. I guess Lisa, before your diagnosis, I know you said that you love to wear heels. This person's asking, were you very physically active? It seems like you're definitely an extrovert. This person has been dealing with a lot with their diagnosis because now that they have CRPS, they're not able to maybe go swimming and hiking, and they're told that
Yeah.
they have to stay home and do puzzles and maybe knit, which is fine, but they're an outgoing person. And so like what advice for them do you have, and especially for them when it comes to advocating for themselves?
Be as active as you possibly can,
Yeah.
and don't let anybody tell you not to try it. I'm not telling you to endanger yourself or to do anything that would cause harm to the part of your body that is affected, but it's really use it or lose it. Actually, I'm not really an extrovert. I'm really an introvert, and I'm a couch potato. But before I got sick, I had been on a real health kick because I wanted to get my weight where it belonged, and I just wanted to be active. And because my work was so demanding, I found that I needed to get outside in nature. So I was walking daily, taking my little dog out for a long, long walk, a couple of miles every day. And I was in pretty good shape. My legs were in great shape. And that's where I'm mostly affected is in my legs. Um, I also spoke a lot. Public speaking was a big part of my work, a lot of trainings. And so I was on my feet a lot. And so, yeah, I was somewhat physically active, especially compared to now, because when I leave my house, I use a wheelchair. Both my feet are affected and I can't wear shoes. And walking is really incredibly painful for me, especially on my left foot. So anything that's physically active requiring walking or stepping or whatever is out for me right now. But I try to do what I can with my arms. I do go to the gym. I just think that we need to be as physically fit as we possibly can be, because if we don't use it, we certainly do lose it. I found out that you don't work your core unless you're walking. You can do a lot of core exercises, but the main way that your core gets worked is through walking. And since I don't do much walking anymore, except a little bit in my house, it my core turned into slop. And so I'm working really hard to get my core back in shape. If you don't use it, you lose it. So yeah, I have a friend who has CRPS. It affects his arms. So he hikes. And he loves to, hike mountains and, trails and that kind of thing. People are saying, oh, what if you get hurt? Well, that's true of anybody. If you trip and get hurt, you're out there. So again, be safe, take your phone, let people know where you are and what you're doing, but be active and let anybody tell you not to. Work with a physical therapist if you can, as often as you can. Physical therapy is a wonderful asset. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's painful. Train your physical therapist to help you. Let them know what hurts, what kind of touch doesn't work for you, what kind of exercises don't work for you. These are things that I've learned over the last 10 years.
That's awesome. And I see people in the chat saying that they do a lot of this. I know we've had physical therapists on live streams in the past. So definitely go to our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook videos. I know we have some with physical therapists. I also see someone mention they do as much as they can, line dancing, walking, lots of community classes that are free. And I'm so glad that she said that because a lot of people, I mean, I will even admit I have gone to a few Pilates classes. I also remind everyone that I do not have CRPS, but I want to do so many workout classes, and classes are expensive. And
Yeah.
so, try to find those community classes, in your community that are free that you can take advantage of. Join a walking club, walk around your neighborhood if you're able. But definitely, like you said, use it because you definitely don't want to lose it. So keep moving as much as.
Something that a chronic disease does is really isolate you. And being physically active does something in that you're out. You're out doing something, and often you're doing something with other people. Find a walking buddy, and it doesn't have to be someone who has CRPS. I mean, I have a good friend that she would love for me to go out and walk with her if I could. But yeah, find people that you can engage with, because the isolation and the loneliness is really crushing sometimes, and getting out and being active and being involved is a really good for not just your body, but your psychology.
And I'm glad you mentioned like connecting with other people and having a community, because I do want to remind everyone that we do have a support group page on our website that's filled with other CRPS warriors who are looking to engage. So, of course, since the pandemic, a lot of our support groups are now virtual. We do still have some in-person groups, and there's so many Facebook groups listed here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that into the chat. And I think we have a few support group leaders that are actually watching now that are in the chat. I've seen their
Good.
names pop up. So feel free to promote your support groups as well. But definitely just know you're not alone. There's so many people. There's people here in the chat right now. Like I said, our support groups, so many people who are looking to connect with someone. So definitely make sure that you're connecting with other warriors. Another thing I want to piggyback on that you mentioned earlier was about people joining the advocacy committee. And not only I think you're looking for people of, different ages. I saw someone in the chat with CRPS who's 24. We have and recently diagnosed. We also have, plenty of CRPS warriors of different ages, but we definitely want to make sure that we're working and engaging with warriors who are newly diagnosed and those who have had CRPS for a very long time, because I know
Yes.
those who have had CRPS for many years can definitely tell the newly diagnosed more about their experience, what to expect, and maybe even some ways that they can combat it early and potentially go into remission. So we need a little bit of everyone on the advocacy committee, because we need people to make phone calls, write letters, be advocates on social media. We need all of you. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I
Yeah.
mentioned that as well.
I love that you're asking the newly diagnosed to participate as well, because they bring a freshness and a reminder of what that initial experience is of being diagnosed, of the frustration in those early days. My pain was so much worse than, well, it was different in the early days. And that experience was just so shocking. I ran everywhere trying to find a way to fix myself for about 2 to 3 years. And then I realized this isn't working. This isn't serving me. So yeah, I think we need the perspectives of the newly diagnosed. We need the wisdom of people who've been around. I've only had it for 10 years. I've met people who've had it for 40 years. Um, I can't, it's mind boggling to me that somebody would have it that long. And I'm learning from them. I'm picking their brain about what they do. How do they take care of themselves? How do they communicate with their families? That kind of stuff. So yeah, we can learn so much from one another. I can't hear you, Alexis. Something happened.
All right, I hit the mute button.
Oh,
Let me
there
see
you
if I
are.
can yes, sorry about that. I'm also getting a message on Restream that's asking me to reload. So let me try to reload, and hopefully we didn't lose everyone. I think
Okay,
we're I think we're still here because I know people were very active. Okay, I'm seeing messages come back in the chat. So we're
good.
still live. We didn't lose everyone. Um, but yes, I know there were a lot of people sharing their support groups in the chat as well, people sharing links, people sharing emails. So happy to see that as well. I know we still have a little bit of time, so I wanted to see if we had any questions. I know it looks like I lost some of the original questions that were coming through. But once again, some people are just joining. So they're like, how do I join the advocacy committee? Once again, reach out to Lisa, drlisavanallen@gmail.com. We also have an advocacy page that we're going to make sure that we're keeping updated in 2025. I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat once again, but it's rsds.org/advocacy. So you can keep updates on, what we have going on. When Lisa has something new, she'll send it to me. I'll put it on that page. And then we're also going to make sure that we're keeping our blog or our news page as we have it, keeping that updated as well. Any final words, Lisa? I know I'm going through the chat to see if I'm missing any questions from the community, but anything else regarding advocacy that we may have missed that you want to go over? I know you've provided a lot of advice and tips. That's great already.
I would love to get suggestions from folks as I'm writing blog posts. Are there self-advocacy topics that they would like to see covered? I'm willing to do the research and do the writing. But if people have suggestions about things that I'm not asking if you'd like to do an Ann Landers column, but I am really interested in topics that maybe I'm not thinking of. I know the other day somebody said, are you willing to talk about urinary incontinence on the blog? Absolutely. There's so many people with CRPS who are facing that issue. Nothing is out of bounds for me. I'll do it in a very professional way, but we want to talk about these topics because where else are we going to get the information? There are doctors who don't know these answers. And so we really need to be able to share with one another what's out there and what kind of information and resources are available on all of these different topics. So yeah, if you have any ideas, I'm an open book and welcome your suggestions.
Definitely. And we want to write about, and I know one of my goals for this year, I guess I'll just go back and say we've been doing live streams for going on 5 years now. And I have a master list of the topics and ideas that I want to cover. I know this year I definitely want to bring someone on to talk about cataracts. I've been getting a lot of questions about cataracts and CRPS, GI issues. And then I know we're always looking for stories of hope as well. So, if you have gone into remission or you know someone who's gone into remission, let us know that as well, because we always love to share the positive stories. So we're going to continue to share those as well on the blog and then hopefully in live streams. If you have any ideas for live streams, if you have a physician that is just amazing and you want them to come on and speak to the community, let me know. Send us an email, info@rsds.org, and we'll work to get that person on. And I see that we're starting to get some other things in the chat. I see someone mentioned Train Pain. Train Pain is an organization that we have partnered, doing events with in the past. I'm going to put a link to their website in the chat as well. We do love Train Pain. I know Dr. Elon, he is overseas and he has done a few Facebook Lives with us over the years too, and has presented at our virtual conference. So definitely love what he's doing, and we're going to have to follow back up with him this year. I'm also seeing a lot of people talking about ketamine and understanding more about ketamine. As you said, you're going to speak more about ketamine this year. I know we have a lot of information about ketamine on our website, and I will also be sure to share that. I know there is an American ketamine directory that I always send to people of, just different locations across the country that provide ketamine. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat as well. We just have so many different resources, and
That's fabulous. I didn't know you had a ketamine directory. That's great.
yeah, I have like 6 years worth of links and things since I've been with RSDSA to drop in the chat. So I'm going to do that. And I see Mary Beth, who's on our board, is talking about our checklist to prep for doctor's visits. We do have a lot of documents on our website under the media tab that talk about, what you should prepare for when you're going to the dentist, the ER, hospital guidelines. We also have guidelines for healthcare aides, personal care assistants, and certified nurse assistants. I know this year we're also working on some surgery guidelines for CRPS. So I'm going to drop that in the chat as well, just so people can have access to that. But we are definitely working on updating a lot of the lists and documents we have, because we do know that things change over time. Yeah, some people are, dropping physicians in the chat. So I'm definitely loving that, because the more and more names we get, the better. What do you think about service animals for someone with CRPS? Definitely a plus if that's something that you're interested in. Once again, I know Kelly on our board, she has a service dog that she trained on her own. And we actually had a live stream in 2023 that talked about how to get a service dog if you have CRPS. Some people pay to have a dog trained, some people train the dog on their own, but we do have a live stream about that you can find. And I can try to respond to you after the live stream with a link to that chat for the person who asked. So,
and I wouldn't overlook emotional support animals.
yes.
Some people poo-poo that whole subject and it, make jokes about it, but as an emotional support animal, when you are living with the stress that you're living with constant pain, that can really provide some real comfort for you. So yeah, service animals and emotional support animals are something that are really worth looking into.
Right. But yeah, so I'm seeing some more shout outs, but I wanted to see if anyone has any specific advocacy questions for Lisa. But once again, if you think of something after the live stream, you all know where to find us. And you definitely, like I said, I've shouted out Lisa's email a few times. It's Dr. Lisa Van Allen. Don't forget the doctor and her email at gmail.com and reach out to her. The email address for our advocacy committee is advocacy@rsds.org. So make sure that you're reaching out to that email as well. Someone said they've acquired 7 cats to help. I have dogs. Someone said I have had dogs and
7
cats.
might be excessive, but I have 2 dogs and it seems
Beloved.
like way too many.
I will say I love cats. I'm allergic, unfortunately, but cats are they're very interesting creatures. So that is awesome.
They give
Um,
you something else to focus on. I just think it's brilliant. My dogs also, they get me out of my chair, which, like we said, move it or lose it. And just getting up, oh, I don't know, every hour or so to let my dog outside is something I need to do. Yeah, they
definitely,
help me out.
definitely. Well, all right, Lisa, I think we are coming to the end of our convo. I want to take a moment to just thank you for all of this great information.
Sure.
As always, for everyone who's watching, we'll have this video pinned to the top of our Facebook timeline for easy access. If you're over on YouTube, this video will be under our live tab. So if you missed the video, maybe you just joined, or you want to send it to someone, they'll be able to rewatch it over and over, and all the comments will be there as well. I know some of you have asked questions that we weren't able to get to, so I'm going to jump in after we end and respond to some of the questions and add in some links and whatnot. So just wanted to let you know that I did not miss you, and I'm going to do the best I can to respond to everyone. But like I said earlier, if you have any questions for us, if you need a support group, if you're looking for a new physician, if you want to tell your story on our blog, if you want to be one of our interns or our social media intern, or if you have suggestions for a physician or professional, someone with CRPS that you want to see on one of our future live streams, send us an email, info@rsds.org. I know we've said a few different email addresses while we've been on the stream, but info is our main email, and I get that email, our entire team does, and then I distribute and make sure that it goes to the right place. So be sure to reach out to us. We're here. We're starting out 2025 strong. Just let us know what you need from us, and we're here to support. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks,
Well,
everyone.
thank you. Thank you for putting this